And welcome to another episode of PWT Talks NXT here on the PWTorch Daily Cast. I'm your host, Nate Lindberg, and I apologize. I feel like I'm losing my voice. I'm a little hoarse right now. I apologize for that. But I'm your host for the evening here on PWT Talks NXT, where we're talking NXT for June 10th, 2025. Kelly is off doing parent things tonight, so Kelly's not here with me, but filling in for Kelly, David Miller, who does the alternate perspective on the NXT, alternate perspective report on NXT for PWTorch.com. David, thank you very much for joining us tonight, man.
Thanks for having me, Nate. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Excellent, excellent. So we had a we had a pretty interesting show tonight, and a pretty fun show tonight, as far as I'm concerned. Main event. Jasper Troy versus Oba Femi in the main event for the NXT Men's Championship. This is a pretty hard-hitting match. We saw earlier in the night Jasper Troy put Oba Femi through the windshield of a car while Oba Femi was trying to get to the building. And this kind of set up for the main event here tonight, where Oba was feeling a little bit injured, I guess is a good way to put it. Had his ribs all taped up, and not really able to perform to the level that we would expect Oba Femi to perform. Jasper Troy kind of taking it to him here in the main event. Oba Femi was able to overcome and retain his title, but I don't think we've ever seen anybody manhandle Oba Femi quite like this. David, do you remember ever seeing anybody manhandle him like this?
Never. Jasper Troy is a mountain of a man, and I noticed they announced him at 340 pounds with Oba Femi coming in at 310. So Oba Femi going into a match at a 30-pound disadvantage that's something we've never seen before, and he is.
No.
We saw in the face-to-face last week. He does stand. Oba Femi does have to look up to him, and there aren't very many people that Oba Femi has to look up to.
No, not at all. Not at all. I even with Jasper Troy being pretty new to the business, I'm pretty impressed with what I see so far. I think he and Oba Femi had some pretty good chemistry, and I think if he kind of continues on this trajectory, he could be a pretty major player in NXT and WWE to come for a little while. What are your thoughts on Jasper Troy so far from what we've seen?
Absolutely. I mean, you can tell that he is still green. He missed this pretty much completely missed the senton early in the match, but
Yeah.
they're just. I'm sure you noticed that they were just getting started. But he shows great intensity, and again, just his size. The crowd definitely reacted to him when he came out. He does get a good reaction from the crowd. Again, he is a very large individual, and he was throwing around Oba Femi like he weighed 210 pounds instead of 310 pounds. The shot, and I don't know, you can tell me your thoughts on this, Nate, but I don't know if that was meant to happen when the turnbuckle and the middle rope actually came loose after Femi got whipped into the corner. I don't think that was a planned spot, because during the split screen commercial break, they ran out there and reattached the middle rope. But for those who did not see it, Jasper Troy whipped Oba Femi into the turnbuckle with such great force that the turnbuckle actually came off. And at that point, they went to split screen commercial break. And I think that was kind of on purpose as well. I think that was to kind of, give them a chance to get out there and get that fixed, because that was just, it was very intense, very hard hitting. And I've never seen Oba Femi manhandled like that before. It was really a pretty amazing match.
No, I'm honestly not sure if that was a planned spot or not when the turnbuckle broke. It kind of, like, at first it felt like maybe it was planned. They do things like this with the ring breaking or something like that when you've got two big men in the ring like this. But now I watch on Netflix with the VPN, And when you go to the split screen, for anybody watching on the CW, on Netflix, it actually, at least if you pay for the premium anyway, which I do, it stays full screen, and you still actually continue to get commentary. And on commentary, they were talking about it, talking about, the officials coming down to the ring and trying to fix it, but they weren't overselling it like you would expect them to oversell it if it was planned. So I tend to think it wasn't, and it was just an accident. But I honestly have no idea. I wouldn't be surprised if it was planned, just to kind of show the force that these two men have in the ring when they, whipping each other around and stuff. Um, but yeah, either way, it was very visually impressive. And the officials got it taken care of during that break. So yeah, I thought this was good. I thought this was really good. We have Goodfella in the chat. Says they were getting nervous that they were going to take the strap off of Femi for a second and put him in the King of the Ring tournament. But heck yeah, main event. No, that King of the Ring tournament, that one empty spot, that's meant for Ron Killings. I'll fight anybody who says otherwise. All right. So yeah, let's see. Ryan Solario says the fall from grace from Femi to Jasper was Jasper Troy was really impressive. Actually, speaking of that fall from grace, so right at during the finish to this, we saw Jasper Troy take a fall from grace. Obafemi pins him 1-2. He doesn't get his shoulder up, but the referee says he did, which I don't know. I thought was really weird, especially since they just went to a second fall from grace and another pin. I feel like if the referee noticed he didn't get his shoulder up if he was supposed to, why not just count it rather than going and doing the spot over again? I thought that was a little strange. They tried to cover for it on commentary, but I don't know. I mean, I watched that spot a few times. I rewound it, and I didn't. I don't know. I didn't. I'm not exactly sure, like what happened there. Does it make any sense? Can you make any sense of that, dude?
No, that I'm completely baffled at what that was. It looked like the referee was sliding his hand in between the mat and Troy's shoulder, like he was maybe just a couple of inches off the mat. But they've counted the 3 count with people whose shoulders were clearly off the mat before. Look at Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch, for crying out loud.
Yeah, there you go.
And they went ahead with a 3 count. And then they turned out and went right back in. As you said, they went right back into a fall from grace. And this time it's a 3 count, which leads me to believe that was the planned finish. I have no idea, because Troy's shoulders were not obviously off the mat, at least not from my vantage point, not from the camera angle that they showed on TV. So I don't know what that was. It really didn't take away from the match, because the rest of the match was just so visually spectacular. It was just, and normally I'm not a big fan of the big man matches. Two guys just sumo wrestling each other, in the ring, things like that. But these two put on a hell of a show. It really surpassed my expectations. The intensity was there. Obafemi came out to the ring. He was still doing, if you notice, he was still doing that little strut of his out to the ring, but he was barely doing it, and he was selling it. Yeah, there you go. You got it down.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, he was showing the effects of it. He was wincing in pain, and that I did not see that coming at the beginning of the show. That was a nice little surprise, because you're used to seeing the shots of the wrestlers, coming through the parking lot, walking through the entrance, and you're like, okay, who's going to be shown walking through the entrance? And then all of a sudden, Jasper Troy just charges in out of nowhere and just gloms Obafemi and choke slams him right through that windshield. I'm like, okay, this is a good way to start out a show.
Absolutely.
I can get into this.
And especially too, where they're trying to get this guy over. I mean, he just won LFG and all of that. And here that, immediately he says he's going to try and make an impact on the show a few weeks ago. He certainly did that. I mean, as we said and they said on commentary, like we've never seen anybody manhandle Obafemi like that. So like this is a great way, in my opinion, to just debut somebody and instantly make them credible. Now we'll see if he gets over. We'll see if the fans either get behind him. Obviously, probably from a heel perspective, but yeah, from what I'm seeing so far, I like him. Like you said, David, he's still a little bit green, but I certainly I think with time, I could see him. I could see him, like I said, being a major player here. In oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, he could have some, yeah, once he makes his way to the main roster. Yeah, I'm just thinking of potential opponents down the line after he gets a little more seasoned. Damian Priest, Drew
Oh yeah.
McIntyre, some of the other bigger gentlemen on the main roster. He could, they could really do a lot with him, and I think he's got a future for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Brock Benningfield coming in says it feels like the ref messed up at the finish. I don't know if it was the ref or is somebody. I feel like somebody messed up, whether it was the ref or Jasper Troy himself. I'm not sure. I feel like Troy was supposed to kick out and then take that second one, and he just didn't. So the ref pretended he kicked out, but that's that's just pure speculation at this point. Um, Goodfella coming in saying that he'll fight me on the wrong killing call for Money in the Bank. Sheamus, Bronson Reed, or Rusev are in that match. I think it's going to. He says he thinks it's going to be Karrion Kross. Honestly, I kind of do too, but I want it to be Ron Killings. I want to see Truth with the World Championship, and I don't care what anybody says. I want it to happen. Um,
I'm with you there.
oh yeah, God, they did. Oh, last night when Truth cut off his hair, that was one of the. I felt like CJ must have felt like when Bailey showed up. Let's put it that way.
Right. Yeah, I thought about CJ when I saw Bailey last night. I'm like, somebody, CJ is off celebrating somewhere.
Oh,
So,
exactly,
but yeah,
exactly.
that truth. Not to get too much into Raw, but yeah, that truth segment, that Ron Killing segment, that's what I've been waiting for. Let's see.
Oh yeah.
Let's see the NWA World Champion Ron the Truth Killings in WWE at this point. So yeah, let's put some respect on his name.
Oh yeah, he ain't getting any younger. So now's the time to do
Mm-mm.
it. Now is the time to do it. All right, let's keep moving on here. Let's go to our opening match: Ethan Page versus Sean Legacy. We saw this was as far as I'm concerned, fantastic match. Sean Legacy continues to impress every time we see him here in NXT. Obviously he's kind of one of the staples of Evolve right now. But they clearly see something in him, and as they should, because I mean I do too. I'm assuming you guys do as well. He's very ready for NXT, at least probably the main roster. I'm sure you could pluck him and put him in the main roster and be just fine with what I'm seeing anyway. But Ethan Page does retain here. We saw Ricky Saints come out and attack him afterwards. Ethan Page did take the title away from him a few weeks back, as well as attacked his throat. We saw Ava yelling at Ricky Saints a little bit later on. You could still see the bruising on his throat. I'm assuming it was makeup, but he had a big bandage on his throat as well. Ricky Saints didn't actually say anything during this segment, but Ava basically just kept yelling at him and told him to go home until he was medically cleared. And I think that was all that happened in that segment, from my notes anyway. But like I said, Ethan Page retaining makes sense. Sean Legacy, while it would have been a shock to see Sean Legacy win the North American Championship, I think there's been quite a few shocks lately within the WWE environment. So I don't think it would have made sense to put the title on Sean Legacy for a multitude of reasons. But I think I think his stock in the company is raising. Well, I don't even know if he's necessarily under contract or if he's working a WWE ID thing or whatever. I'm not sure exactly how the contracts work for Evolve, but regardless, once he's actually part of NXT, I can again, kind of like I was saying with Jasper Troy, I could see him doing some big things. David, yeah, on the opening match and in the Saints attack.
Yeah, very good opener. Sean Legacy, as he said, he does continue to impress. The first time I saw him in Evolve, I was impressed, and I was like, okay, there's something special about this kid here. He held his own in there with Ethan Page. There he missed. Again, his greenness showed a little bit. A couple of the kicks, showed a little bit of light, but he's very good in the ring. He's very smooth. He's exciting. He's intense. He's very athletic, and he's definitely got a spot coming up in NXT soon. I don't see him sticking around Evolve much longer. I don't think he's main roster ready, but I think he's definitely very close to being NXT ready, and he'll make a good addition to the NXT roster. He's
Yeah.
very impressive.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. Sean, a good fellow in the chat coming in saying, Sean Legacy is electric. Sometimes for my liking, he's a little too fast. Needs to make sure he gets his licks in. As to me, he noticeably missed a few kicks and punches, which is true. He definitely did.
Yeah.
Um, but again, developmental. It's what it's here for. It's what it's here for.
And
Um,
when you first start out like that too, and I mean, I know he's no rookie, but the tendency. I know one thing from when you're training in wrestling, you're consistently told slow it down, and if you think you're going too slow it down even more. And I definitely agree. Legacy needs to just slow down a little bit, and but he's got some potential with him. It's undoubtedly he has potential, and he's definitely got a spot in NXT coming up soon.
I just looked him up on Cage Match because I don't really know much about Sean Legacy, so just curious. He's
Mhm.
actually been wrestling since 2016,
Really?
in various promotions. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, he's only per year. It looks like he had maybe like one match a month for the most part,
Hmm.
between 2016 and now. Or well, really, I guess 2018 and now was one match a month. He only had a few in 2017 and 18, or sorry, 2016 and 2017. But yeah, he's been doing this for a while. I didn't realize that. Um,
No, I didn't either.
yeah. Um, in the chat, we have Sean coming in saying, "What's up, guys? He can't stay on because he's driving, but he appreciates us all." So hi, Sean. Just wanted to
Thank you,
say hi.
Sean.
Yes. And then we're gonna circle back. We're gonna go back because CJ has to get his Bailey question in, and that's totally fine by me. So what do we think about how they did Bailey's return, and should she use a different finish? He thinks that the Rose plant gets too much hate. Um, I liked the return, honestly. I mean, Becky's the one that took her out of WrestleMania. I wasn't expecting it either. Maybe I should have been, but I wasn't. Becky was kind of running down Lyra again, and it just kind of made sense. I think for Bailey to come out and make the save there. And I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the rose plant. I don't know what she would move to, um, but I don't know. Personally, I do think she should use something else. I don't really like the setup for it. That's just me. Uh, I don't know. I think sometimes it looks like it's a little bit hard to set up. But anyway, yeah, real quick, David on Bailey from last night.
I thought they gave her just enough time to come back and do this. I don't think they should have rushed her into it, and they did not. They gave her a little bit of time to kind of let it cool off to where it would be a surprise when she came out. But you knew that when Becky admitted a while back that she was the one that attacked Bailey, you knew there was going to be some retribution down the line. It's just a matter of when, and that when was last night. And it even took Lyra by surprise. She was looking like, "What the heck is going on here?" And yeah, Bailey came in there and um, took it to Becky, and I'm looking forward to seeing a match between Becky and Bailey. And I don't have a problem with the Rose Plant. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, it doesn't look a little bit maybe sometimes awkward to set up, but I mean, I I've got no problem with it as a finisher. But yeah, I think that could be possibly, because we know WWE's just been triple threat happy lately. But
For a while, yeah.
possibly Bailey and Becky and Lyra triple threat at SummerSlam. I don't want to give them any ideas because, like you said, God knows they got triple threat on the brain here. But that's a possibility.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Um, so while we're here, Sean in the chat coming in. Blake Monroe, real quick. Mariah May would have been fine. The name change is a little weird. I can understand. I mean, Ricky Starks to Ricky Saints. They got to change it up a little bit. So WWE owns the name. So I expected Mariah May to have a different name, especially where last week they didn't say a name for her at all, as far as I'm aware. I ended up watching the show earlier in the day, but today because I wasn't here last week. But I don't remember them saying it in last week's show. Um, in Ryan Slary on the chat saying apparently Blake is a tribute to her niece and Monroe is a tribute to Marilyn Monroe. I figured the Monroe was probably a tribute to Marilyn Monroe, but I do like the fact she's using a name that's close to her, tribute to her niece. If that is the case, I'm just going off of what Ryan says, and I don't know if Ryan's right or not. But hey, Ryan, horseshoe, I beat you to it again. Had to say it. Had to say it. I like the name, but there's one thing and this is a personal thing. I knew a guy named Blake who was like just this big, the opposite of Blake Monroe. So it's hard for me to wrap my head around that, but that's it. Other than that, though, I like the name. I think it could certainly work. I kind of one thing that I've heard Wade say quite a bit, or not quite a bit, but I've heard him say over the years anyway. There is room for sex in wrestling. I don't want it to necessarily be like the Attitude Era or anything like that, but when you have a character kind of like Mariah May, Blake Monroe, that is using her sexuality as part of her gimmick, I don't have a problem with that. I think why not? We have all these different types of characters on the show. Not every single woman on the show is blatantly using their sexuality in that particular way. So why not have one character that does that? I think that certainly works. They kind of did that with like Tiffany Stratton in NXT for a little while. Liv Morgan did that for a little while. So I mean, it certainly can work. She's clearly a talented performer. I've seen some of her stuff in AEW, although I don't follow AEW super closely. But I think she's going to be a good addition to the roster. What do you think so far or what do you think of the name and Mariah May making her way to NXT?
Well, what I know about Mariah May would probably rattle around in a thimble like a BB in a boxcar. I didn't really get much of her work in AEW. I know of her feud with Tony Storm. I have heard the name. I've not seen much of her AEW work. As far as the name change, yeah, of course the name change was going to happen. We knew that. I'm glad they didn't go with Mariah March. I'm just thankful for that. But yeah, I've got no problem with the name change. The Monroe thing, obviously, it's an homage to Marilyn Monroe. Blake, I don't know any big hulking guys named Blake, so I got no problem with the first name Blake. The only thing I did not like was the vignette. I thought it was way too over the top, cheesy Hollywood, access Hollywood. And am I the only one that thinks this? But did that animation just remind you of like the opening sequence of Bewitched, like the title?
Oh my God! Actually, now that you say that, yes.
That was all I could think of. I'm like, okay, how am I supposed to take this woman seriously with this cheesy? And then during one of the matches, I think it was with D'Angelo and Crucifino against High Rise. You heard the little chimes ring out, and there's that animated graphic. Like I said, it looked like Elizabeth Montgomery. I swear. and saying that Blake Monroe will sign her NXT contract next week. Breaking news. I'm like, okay. Um, yeah, I could do without that. It doesn't make me want to take her seriously as a threat to JC Jane. I want to take her seriously. I've heard she's a good talent, and I want to see what she can do. As far as the the sexuality thing, yeah, I've got no issue with that. As long as we're not going back to the Terry Runnels, as you said,
Yeah.
the sports or the fitness models, the bra and panties matches. Yeah, I never want to see us go back to that again, and we
Yeah.
never will. We got some talented ladies on the main roster and in NXT now, and they're gonna get even better um, with the likes of Leilani Kai. Um, you know, Overseeing some things there. I know that Leilani's been involved here lately, and she has a lot of experience to give to some of those girls. And
Oh yeah.
so, yeah, I know that she's anxious to, from what I've heard, she's anxious to get in there and work with them. So, yeah, nothing wrong with the gimmick itself. I could do with a little bit less of the animation and the cheese over the top cheesiness, but let's see what happens. It's too early to say, really.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the Culling versus Brigg in Amura. This saw this Culling go over earlier in the night. We saw a little bit of a backstage video package, I guess, with Izzy Dame explaining to the rest of the Culling why she hit Brooks Jensen with the chair last week. Brooks wasn't committed to the cause. He rolled his eyes when the word family was brought up and things like that. So if he wasn't committed, why should they believe in him? That was her reasoning. And then they said that they'd be moving on to Briggs and Inamura next. This I thought was a pretty good match between the Culling and Inamura. Now, granted, I will admit I missed about 2 or 3 minutes of this match. It had a weird connection issue, but from what I did see, I thought it was a pretty hard hitting match. I love Yoshiki Inamura. I don't think he's got like an actual WWE contract. I think he's still with Noah, working on kind of like a partnership type of a deal. But man, I really like this guy. He's got some great charisma. I think he works pretty well with Briggs. Um, I don't know. I want to see some more out of him. I'd like to see even like a singles run out of him here in WWE. The Culling, I'm, I don't know. I just have no. They don't seem credible to me. Even without Brooks Jensen, they still don't necessarily seem credible to me. Sean Spears, Sean Spears, the actual person, really like the guy, like the fact that he came back to WWE to help out in NXT as an on-screen character and also behind the scenes. But I'm just really I don't see the point of the Culling right now. Like Izzy Dame said in her promo, in that video package, the Culling is supposed to be there to cull out the weak and things, and they're not. I don't know. They're not really doing that. Granted, they got a win tonight, but they haven't really been making that big of an impact, I guess I should say. Um, but yeah, David, on the match and I guess the Culling as a whole.
Well, first of all, how do you know they were backstage? It was like total darkness.
Well,
Like
that's true. That's very
they're in
true.
some void. They're in some void somewhere with it's just complete darkness around. It's like the Twilight Zones. Sometimes they got a light shining up from the floor under their faces. I guess someone's down there with a flashlight shining it up. I don't know, but yeah, I don't really get the point of the culling. Brooks Jensen. Yeah, to be honest with you, I couldn't pick him out in a crowd. Same thing with Nico Vance. I'll just be honest with you. Nothing stands out about him to me. Izzy Dame's got a good character, and I think she's actually the most interesting part of the group right now. And when Spears, Spears admitted, it's like, well, you obviously saw something that I didn't see, and that impresses me, and we need that from you. We need you to be that, and what else do you see? And she's, oh, I've got my eye on something. I was like, okay, what do you have your eye on here? Is it adding somebody else to the group? Hopefully, somebody that'll make some kind of an impact. Because the culling has really done nothing of note. I think they have the potential. I mean, for one thing, if they're looking for, I know they've been kind of hovering over um, Tatum Paxley lately. We're used to seeing groups that have like one female, but can you remember a faction that actually had like two males and two females, other than
Metaphor.
Metaphor?
Yeah,
Other than
that
Metaphor?
metaphor's that's the only one I can think of. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that could be interesting there. Yeah, they
Yeah.
just need some more character development here. Sean Spears, obviously, we know him. Izzy Dame, she's doing well, but Nico Vance could definitely use some tweaking. Tatum Paxley, I think she'd be a great addition if they
Yeah.
wanted to add her to the group. As far as the match itself, I did see the whole thing. It was a very good match. Anytime you get to see Briggs and Inamura together, it's a treat. Like you said, Inamura has got great charisma in the ring. He's hard hitting. He's fun to watch, and I think he brings out the best in Briggs. Honestly, I think they are much better. Briggs and Inamura are a much better team than Briggs is a solo wrestler, in my opinion.
Mhm. Um, where we go here? Okay, Ryan Slario said Diamond Mine. So when I'm like, I was trying to think, like, what other women were in Diamond Mine other than
Diamond
Ivy
Mine?
Nile? And Tatum Paxley was in Diamond Mine for like a cup of coffee there. Um, actually, I
Hmm.
was like 6 months. 6 months. I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah.
At least according to Wikipedia, anyway. Um, yeah, yeah. All right. But no, Ryan also said that he feels like Izzy Dame took over as the leader of the culling, and it kind of does feel like that. I know on commentary, I think it was Corey said something along the lines of like, not sure who the leader is, or it basically made like a comment that the
They
leader
did
was
make an
ambiguous.
allusion. Yeah, they
Yeah,
did make an allusion to that. I believe Vic, or yeah, they said something along those lines. So yeah, it does kind of appear that way. Like maybe she's kind of moving up in the group, and maybe taking over as leader. That would be interesting.
yeah. I'd be all for it. I'd be all for it. I'd
Hmm.
love to see a woman in charge of in charge of a faction, and I think it'd be something that like I could actually see Sean Spears being in favor of. Like one of the things he said in his Chris Van Vliet interview a handful of months ago, is he's there to help make stars. Um, and so I think him taking a back seat and letting somebody else kind of reign over the culling, I think that would be. I think that would probably be exactly what his goal would have been in the first place, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Or if not a goal, at least a happy accident type of a deal. So yeah, definitely on board with that. Um, all right, let's move on. Lash Legend versus Ren Sinclair. We saw a weird, I don't know, it was like a weird TikTok thing where we saw Zarya and Sol Ruka trying to guess what the other was going to say. I don't know. I don't really do the TikTok thing. So I'm assuming it's like a viral TikTok thing where you try to guess what your best friend's going to say or something. And as they're trying to do that, we saw Lash Legend, Kalani Jordan, Ren Sinclair, and Carmen Petrovic all kind of get in a fight in the background. Lash Legend and Ren Sinclair had a few words to say to one another, which led into this match here tonight. We wound up seeing Lash go over. During Ren Sinclair's entrance, she said she wanted to do this on her own, so she sent the rest of the NQCC out back. You have to give them a fist bump on the ramp. Sent them out back so she could do things on her own. We also saw Kalani Jordan on commentary, kind of putting I don't know, putting Lash Legend and Ren Sinclair down a little bit, and kind of continuing on Kalani's, I don't know, maybe I'm going to say the rebirth of Kalani Jordan, I guess. She's not like a full-fledged heel, but she sometimes does things that are kind of heelish. So yeah, I don't really know what to say about that sort of heel turn, but I thought this was, again, a really good match. Lash Legend has come so far from where she was when she first started. Yeah, I thought she and Ren Sinclair had some good chemistry together and put on a pretty good match here. Ryan Solario in the chat. That was really cringe at the end of that segment when Sol and Zarya said drama. Yes, it was. I think that a lot of that segment was cringe, but that certainly put the icing on the cake, the cringe cake. Let's put it that way. Yeah, on Lash and Ren, David.
Well, back to Sorok and Zarya first. Yeah, I don't know what that was either. I mean, I normally love the interaction between Sorok and Zarya. I think they work well off of each other, but I have no idea what they were talking about when that TikTok thing started. And you could barely catch what was going on in the back with Ren Sinclair and Last Legend and Kalani Jordan.
It was kind of hard to follow.
Yeah, I mean the match was. I mean, honestly, I thought it was totally forgettable. There wasn't too much point to it. It wasn't bad. There just wasn't. There was nothing bad about it. It's just kind of there.
Yeah.
Lash Legend, I am glad to see her back on TV after quite a long absence. It seems like, and Ren Sinclair is always a good hand in the ring as well, and she showed that in there. But and then Kalani Jordan, I love Kalani Jordan. I mean she can be in every segment on NXT. I think she's highly entertaining. First of all, she's phenomenal in the ring, absolutely phenomenal in the ring, and she was out there. Obviously, she said, "Hey, if she's gonna get in my business, I'm gonna get in her business." And Lash was obviously extremely distracted by Kalani's presence out there, to the point where I thought Lash might actually lose the match because of her being constantly distracted by Kalani. But she did come back, and I don't know what that was. She hit to finish off Sinclair. Some kind of where she had her behind her and just kind of dropped her on her back. I don't know what that was. Maybe you do, but it looked a little bit sloppy to me. But wound up being a 3 count. I believe that was the shortest match of the night.
Yeah, I think that was shortest match of the night. I don't remember what that move was. I might know what it is, but I don't remember off the top of my head what it was. Which I guess plays into your point that the match was largely forgettable.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember what the finish was.
Yeah.
All right. So we had a profile on Lainey Reed, who's the new signee. We also saw Ava and Fatal Influence in Ava's office. JC Jane was upset that she didn't know about this new signee. She says that as the champion, she should know what's going on with her division. She wants to build a rapport with Ava. And at this point, Lainey Reed walks in. We saw her show up. We saw her make her debut last week. Lainey Reed walks into the room. She basically just comes in and like slaps the crap out of JC Jane. She says she's ready right now for her title match. JC said something else, and then Lainey Reed just slaps her in the face again and walks away. And I'm like, okay, I kind of like this girl. Let's go. And then we saw, like I said, we saw a profile on her, kind of explaining a little bit of who she is. She has a bit of a track background, obviously from the South with her accent and things like that. But she said, don't let her accent fool you. So she's the real deal. We saw JC Jane versus Lainey Reed for the women's championship. JC Jane obviously retained. She just won the title. Can't see her losing it or quite yet anyway. But for what this was, I thought it was pretty good. Lainey Reed, obviously pretty new to this. I looked her up a little bit ago on Cage Match, and she's been in NXT, developmental anyway, since 2023. I think it was November 2023, if I had to guess. I don't still have the tab open, but I think it was November 2023. And had a handful of matches, off TV and on Level Up. But this is her first time on NXT. I like what we saw, and for them to take her and put her right in a spot like this with the women's champion, even if that women's champion is JC Jane. But we're not. You guys know how I feel about that already, I guess. But I think it says a lot that she got put in that spot, and they're giving her, they're putting the spotlight on her this much already. I like what we see, and I'm really interested to see how she slots into the division, because man, this women's division is absolutely stacked right now. Even without Stephanie and Julia and Roxy, them being
Yeah.
up on the main roster, we still have so much talent in the women's division here. On JC Jane and Laney Reed.
Yeah, and you mentioned the women's division. Yeah, there's been that mass exodus of top talent with, pardon me, Stephanie Vicaire, Julia, and Roxanne Perez. But I've heard, I'm not sure if it's true, I've heard that Jordan Grace is bound for the main roster as well, probably SmackDown, I'm assuming. But you got someone who's stepping up to. First of all, Jada Parker's ready. She's a phenomenal character. I love seeing Jada Parker. Laney Reed, I'm again not very familiar with her. I thought she did a good job. Other than, I mean, there was one major botch here with the blockbuster that she, that was kind of, a little bit Jackie Gata-ish. But other than
that's
that,
a deep cut.
I'm sorry. I mean, that's what it reminded me of. Yeah, I don't throw that name around lightly, but that was just a one-off thing, and I mean, it happens. I'm not going to judge her completely on that one missed move here, but because she looked really good in the rest of the match, and there were some believable near falls. There were some very believable near falls, and I kind of have the same opinion of you as JC Jane as NXT women's champion. I don't know, was Linda Miles was she not available? I don't know what, I'm sorry. I don't know why, but hey, it is what it is. I don't see her. I think she's going to be a transitional champion. Uh, Lenny Reed did a good job. It was a very good women's title match. It was very intense. Of course, at the end, it came down to a distraction on the part of Fatal Influence with Fallon Henley jumping up on the ring apron and just, for the brief distraction there. And Jane hitting that, I forget what she calls it, that discus punch. What is it? She calls that finish again, final encore or something.
It's something like that. I
Something
can
like
look it
that.
up
Anyway,
real quick. But yeah, I can't remember.
yeah. Anyway, yeah. Same thing that took out Stephanie Vicaire last week. Good match, and at the very end, we saw Ava up in I guess the balcony is what I call it. I don't know what else you call it, but up there in the area, the same place where Blake Monroe was last week, and Ava announces that there's going to be next week some qualifying matches for a fatal four-way.
Yes.
Which the winner shall face JC Jane for the title at Evolution. And then they pan the crowd, and you see Jordan Grace, Kalani Jordan. You see who else is up
So
there? Lash Legend.
I wrote them down. We had Zarya, Lola Vice, Kalani Jordan, Jada Parker, Jordan Grace, Lash Legend, Thea Hale, and Izzy Dame.
Yeah, they were all stationed throughout the arena among the fans, staring down. And JC Jane was just looking around. She looked like a cornered animal, like she was about ready to get, like a cornered animal was, scared that, they're about to get, attacked there. So that was a good little ending segment there. I like that.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, I think, I think this also works, for JC Jane. She, I think a lot of us are kind of in the same camp where we don't really buy JC Jane as champion, and that's part of the story they're telling is that nobody believed in her and all of that. So I think this kind of plays into that. Now she's got all these 8 women that any one of them, I mean, you could really make an argument that could take her. I think maybe Thea Hale and Izzy Dame might be the two that maybe you can't quite make that argument for, as much as I like both of them. But I think really just about anybody you could make an argument for, being a good opponent for her.
Yeah.
So like you said here, I like the way that she reacted to it. And I like the fact that, say what you want about JC Jane, but she has been in the company for quite some time. It is good to see her get this match at Evolution. Goodfella actually coming in and saying that in the chat. Big match for her getting this match, or big match for JC getting a match at Evolution. I think you said match one too many times, Goodfella, but that's okay. I think we know what you mean. Who do we think will win that match according to our coming in Ron Solario? That is a darn good question. I mean, there's a big part of me, Goodfellas, saying, Jordan. There's a big part of me that wants to agree with that because I want to see the NXT title around Jordan's waist. But like David said a little bit ago, it really seems like she is destined for the main roster sooner rather than later. So I don't want to see them put the title around her waist just for her to lose it, kind of like Stephanie Vaquer or Julia for that matter. Both of them had the title for really a cup of coffee, and that was it. I'd rather see some more long-term title reigns than that. Yeah, Sean made it back home from driving and said that they would, he'd also put the title on Jordan Grace. She's staying in NXT. So we'll see what happens there. Anything else on that before we move on?
No, I'm not sure. Again, that's kind of a hard one to call right now. And the only reason I would not pick Grace as an obvious choice is because of, again, the rumblings of her heading to the main roster.
Yeah, same.
Other than that, I mean, I would love to see Kalani Jordan. I think I'm a huge Kalani Jordan fan. I think she would be great. You could really make the case for a lot of them. Even though it would be a heel versus heel match, Jada Parker I think would be a great choice for champion as well. I think she's ready. There can be that's up in the air. That's too close to call at this point, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, we'll see, and we'll see more on Lenny Reed, I'm sure, and we'll see where this goes with JC Jane. I don't think I do look for her to lose at Evolution, no matter who she's wrestling. I see her as a transitional champion. We'll see what happens at Evolution.
Yeah. I think with Jada Parker, if they did choose Jada Parker, I think the fans would organically turn her. The fans are so behind her right now that I think it would almost be just an organic turn.
She is one of those heels that the fans love, They want to cheer for her. They really, and you can tell when she's in the ring, she gets a huge positive reaction from the crowd. She's not somebody like like Ethan Page. Ethan Page is a pure, unadulterated heel. There is nothing likable about him. There's nothing about him that the fans want to cheer for. They do not want to cheer for him. He is a heel in the purest sense of the word. But then you have these heels that the fans just really want to get behind. And Jada Parker is one of them. They're still not convinced on Trick Williams yet. I think they're getting there though. The fans would definitely organically get behind Jada Parker on that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. El Juglo in the chat asking us about GCW versus JCW feud that's brewing. I couldn't even begin to comment on it. I don't really follow. I follow GCW a little bit here and there, but I don't follow JCW. At least I haven't in a very long time. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that at all, David.
I have no knowledge of that, quite honestly. I know of the promotions. I don't know of the current happenings of either promotion
Yeah,
at this point. So,
yeah. So unfortunately, man, we can't really comment on that, but we
yep,
appreciate
sorry.
the question nonetheless. Appreciate the question
Yeah.
nonetheless. Um,
Now I'm gonna have to check into it. Now that I'll mention it, now I'm gonna have to look into
yeah,
it, see what it's all about.
yeah. I
So,
mean,
thank you.
yeah, I've definitely watched a handful of GCW matches. Yeah, I saw a bunch of highlights from Shotzi's match the other day. Um, Especially the aftermath of the crimson mask on her face after that. I thought was she had a great shot on social media. A buddy of mine sent me. Actually, Jobin, who helps me out on every once in a while here, sent that over. Um, but yeah, that's about as much as I know about GCW in Juggalo Championship Wrestling. So, all right, let's see. We have two more matches. Sorry, one more match to go here. We saw Tony D'Angelo and Luca Crucifino take on High Rise. Um, we saw High Rise get the win. Stacks interfered with the crowbar, but ended up getting chased away by Tony and Luca. Luca looked like he might wind up, or Luca picked up the crowbar, and it looked for a second, for a second like he might wind up hitting Tony from behind. Tony turned around and noticed this, and kind of like questioned Luca. Luca backs down, saying, "No, no, no, it's not what it looks like." And this led directly into the finish, where there was a double team by High Rise to get the win. I don't remember if it was Tyreek or Tyson who actually made the pin or not. Not whoever. I don't remember which one made the pin, but one of them made the pin. Um, so the D'Angelo family saga continues. I don't know. I personally think it looked like Luca was about to hit him. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, they really told an interesting story through the match because before they came out, the Don catches Crucifino on the phone. Yeah, yeah, I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to take care of it. Oh, what was that all about? Oh, just some business. No, don't worry. You can trust me. You can trust me. After you. No, after you. And so there's obvious distrust there when the match starts. Tony's kind of looking on like he's just kind of watching. He's very cautiously watching. And then as the match goes on, you see Tony. His facial expressions are really, really good because you see what appears to be a little bit of trust creeping into his face, into his expression. And then they actually do a good double team move, and they're starting to gel. And then suddenly, and then he takes the hot tag from Luke and comes in there and cleans house. And then Stax shows up with a crowbar, and he catches him and disposes of him. Well, in the process, Stax drops the crowbar, and as Tony is, looking out at Stacks, Luca picks it up and he looks like he's going to clobber him with it. And then, as you said, Tony turns around and all of a sudden goes, "Oh no, 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 man! Hey, that's no, this is not what's going." And then, bam! Either Dupont or Igwe, I don't remember which one, slams into Tony. Tony slams into Luca. Luca goes flying out of the ring. They do their double team on Tony. 1, 2, 3. You don't quite know what the aftermath of that is going to be. I do look for there to be some kind of nefarious goings on between Luca and Stax. We don't know how Rizzo is going to play into this at some point, or what's going to happen. So it's interesting. I'm invested in it to see what happens. And DuPont and Igwe are always fun to watch. I mean, I've seen they've been on
Yeah,
Evolve. They've been featured on Evolve quite a bit here lately. Very good tag team. Very, very fun to watch. Big, powerful men. And the combination of them with Wes Lee is very interesting too. Because you got these two big behemoths, and then you got Wes Lee, who's a high flyer, and I like the name High Rise. So that's a pretty cool name for their little group there. But yeah, it wasn't about them at all. It was all about the D'Angelo family saga, as you said, and where do we go from here? Well, they're going along at a pretty good. I like the pacing of the storyline so far. We'll have to see how this plays out. Is Tony going to wind up being on his own? Is he going to recruit some other people? We don't know at this point. I'm
Yeah.
really not sure where they're heading with this, which is good because I don't like to be able to see that far ahead. I don't like for it to be that obvious. So, yeah, do
Yeah.
you think the creative has an end game to all the family business? I feel like they're winging it sometimes. Oh, I think they always have. I'm sorry to step in on you here, Nate, but yeah, I
No,
think
it's
they
okay.
always have an. I think they always have an end game. I just don't know what it is. What do you think?
Yeah, like and this is a question from the chat from Brock Benningfield. I would so NXT WWE as a whole under Triple H and NXT under Shawn Michaels, they tend to be pretty good with long-term storytelling. Unlike Vince, who I mean, he was booking week to week,
Mm.
minute to minute, rewriting shows, right before they went live. And I know there's still some rewriting of the shows, last minute. We keep hearing, we'll hear about that every once in a while, but not nearly to the point that it used to be. So I tend to think that there is an end game to this. I'm sure there might be some winging it here and there, especially considering the D'Angelo family saga has been going on for what feels like at least a year and a half or so at this point, if not longer. I mean, Tony D'Angelo has been in NXT since 2021 now. But this recent, I guess, kind of all this recent drama feels like it's been going on for a while. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, I like to think they have an end game, but I'm not entirely sure. So I don't know, but I definitely am invested. Partly because it's been going on for so long, but even though my last name is Lindberg, I'm mostly Italian, and
Mhm.
I've always been drawn to The Godfather, Goodfellas, and mafioso and things like that. And so yeah, I'm definitely into it, but. Um, there's also part of me that wants to see it come to a conclusion sooner rather than later so everybody can kind of move on to bigger and better things, but I also don't know what those bigger better things are for these guys. So that which is something Kelly and I have talked about quite a bit on this show. So um don't want to beat a dead horse there. But all right, the last thing we haven't talked about yet, we saw Top Dollar AJ Francis make his way back to NXT. We saw that last week, but we saw him come back tonight in a backstage segment with KC Navarro. They came up and talked with Briggs and Amora. Elijah interfered, or not interfered, but Elijah also walked in a frame, kind of back up Briggs and Inamura. And then later in the night, we saw Trick Williams talk about his fight last week against Mike Santana for the the TNA championship. Um, and essentially, you said, kind of talking about how he beat him and things like that. And essentially kind of started talking about how he's going to be moving on and makes a 6-man tag team match for next week between himself, AJ Francis, and KC Navarro versus Briggs, Inamura, and Elijah. So we basically have, I guess, TNA versus NXT. A Trick, even though he's an NXT guy, is a TNA champion. So we've got a 6-man tag, TNA versus NXT next week. I'm looking for. Sorry, Ryan just said this and it completely threw me off. Elijah is the third brother of Elias, and I love that. Um, I want to see Elijah, Ezekiel, and Elias in this 6-man tag. So there we go. Um, oh, that's funny. So yeah, no,
Put him
I
against the
let.
three faces of Foley.
Ooh, there we go. There we go. I like that. Mick Foley is doing his 1-man show literally like 2 minutes up the road from where I live in a couple days, and a friend of mine's actually doing the Q&A. And I don't know. I think I gotta go.
Oh, I would
Uh,
definitely.
yeah, I've seen his 1-man show before, but I guess obviously this is all new. But yeah, I think I gotta go buy a ticket.
I saw him speak at when I was living in Indiana. He spoke at Vincennes University. That was, oh my gosh, that was so many years ago. But he spoke for probably about an hour. Just one of the most entertaining guys to listen. To tell stories. He's just and genuinely one of the nicest guys I think I've ever met too.
Oh my God. Ryan also is like, don't forget about Elrod. I forgot
Oh
all
my
about Elrod.
gosh, I did
Elrod was
too.
the fourth. He's now so okay. Now we need an 8-man tag. We need somebody else. Well, okay, so
Uh,
we'd have Mick Foley, Mankind, Cactus Jack, and Dude Love.
there you go. Got it.
So there we go. All right.
Perfect.
I like that. Perfect. Um, I don't really have much to say about this match, NXT versus TNA next week. I think it's going to be fun. Um, I don't know if there's going to be any major consequences or anything to it. I could probably see somebody coming out, maybe attacking Trick Williams for the
Joe Hendry.
TNA title. Joe Hendry. Ooh, you said his name. I didn't have his music lined
Oh,
up. God,
now
that's
he's going to
awful.
appear.
Say his name and
I had to.
he
All right, here we go.
Love
Usually I have my finger like on the button for when Kelly says it, and yeah,
it.
I haven't. I didn't this time. But sorry, what? David, were you the one? Sean was asking. Were you the one on Wade's shows on Blog Talk from that day in New York, from that city in
From
New
that,
York?
yeah. I live in Farmington, New York. Well, I used to live in Canandaigua. I've kind of moved around the area. Just moved back to Farmington from Rochester. I've been all over this area, but yeah, Canandaigua was where I lived for the longest time. So yeah, I was on the Blog Talk with Wade. Yeah, when I was still living in Canandaigua. Yeah, it's don't ask me to spell it because yeah. Let's see, Canandaiga. It's Native American.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's upstate, right?
It's Finger Lakes region. As a matter of fact,
Okay.
I was
All
at a
right.
concert several years ago with Peter Frampton and Steve Miller Band, and Peter Frampton at one point during the concert said, "Yeah, it's great to be here in yeah, yeah, it's great. It's great to be here."
It's just great to be here.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, no, my ex-wife is from upstate New York, and some of the names of cities that she used to live in, I don't know how. I mean, obviously, people pronounce them, but
Oh
then
yeah,
again,
you got.
I live in New England. We have some really weird city names here. Worcester. What you'd think it was Worcester, but it's Worcester.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Well, I think that is going to bring us to the end of our show. David, thank you very much for filling in for us. We might,
My pleasure.
we might come knocking on your door a little more often when we need somebody. So I
I'll be
certainly
here. You know
appreciate
where
it.
to find me. You know where to
All
find me,
right.
Nate. Always a pleasure joining you guys.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
And
I'm
thanks
Nate
to
Lindberg.
everyone in the chat here.
Yes, for sure. Ryan Solario in the chat coming in. Horseshoe, Luther Reigns. And if you got to keep it going. Got to keep it going. I'm Nate Lindberg. You can check out the things I do at natelindberg.com. Hopefully, Kelly will be back next week. And I think it's been almost a month now since Kelly and I have done a show together. So it'd be nice to do a show with Kelly again. But if not, I think I'll be here and we'll see who'll be here with me. Take care.